Hello and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. This is Tori. That noise in the background is my pig. Her name is Chloe. Chloe might be loud. Basically this entire video, it is the farm life. But we are, as of the time of recording, less than 2 weeks away from kidding season 2025. All of the goats that are going to be kidding this spring are either La Manchas or mini La Manchas, and it's the breed of goats that naturally has the really tiny ears. I get asked all the time, what did you do to your goats' ears? The answer is nothing. This breed is born this way. Actually, Tori has what's called elf ears. They have a tiny bit of cartilage and they kind of have this little point that points downwards, and some of them just have a little ring of skin around the internal ear. So don't worry if you see a goat without ears, very likely nothing bad happened to them. I love this breed. Really, it's more about their look than anything else. It's a question that I get a lot, is why did you choose La Mancha? I like the look. They're very sweet goats. They're a lot like having a whole bunch of dogs. And Tori is our first due date. She's due February 1st. Now, the due dates that we have for many of the goats are just estimates. I put a total of 7 girls, does, in with our buck feral at the same time, and Tori went into heat a couple days before the rest, and then it was just kind of 5 days of a free-for-all. I called it breeding palooza, and because of that we're gonna have kidding palooza, and I don't really have specific dates, but I do have a window. The 1st through the 8th of February is going to be our kidding season. So I like to do a little bit of a spa day for our goats before they kid. I want to check their FAMACHA scores, so their anemia score in their eyelid. I want to make sure that their feet are nice and trimmed, and I do want to feel for babies because I haven't done that this entire season, believe it or not. Now, something that I do not do for my herd that a lot of people do for their herds is the CD&T vaccination. I actually don't vaccinate anything on my farm, and I do have reasons for that. I will touch on them, but each person, each livestock producer is going to have to assess how much risk they want to take with their herd and what is going to be most important to them. So the reason that I don't give my herd the CD&T vaccination, many do at around this time, about a month before kidding is when you are supposed to give it if you're going to give it. That is to prevent Clostridial blooms, which is a bacteria in their belly. If they happen to overeat, this bacteria can really proliferate in their gut, and it throws off a toxin that hurts the goats in the long run. And then there's tetanus. Tetanus naturally lives in the goat's gut. It's also a bacteria, and what they would react to is if they had an excess amount of tetanus get inside their body, maybe it was a cut, some kind of wound, and that is also something that would throw off a toxin that is bad for them. I've never given these shots. I do not plan on giving these shots. One of the reasons is that these are not communicable diseases, so if I have a goat that comes down with tetanus, it's not like she's going to be contagious to other goats. Same thing with a Clostridial bloom. It really only affects the goat that happens to have the bloom for whatever reason, and especially with things like Clostridial, these can be prevented with just different management practices, trying to ensure that the goats don't get an overabundance of concentrates and things in their gut. And so I tend to not worry about it. But the other thing with it is, again, this is all just personal preference, but there's a preservative in the CD&T vaccine that I am not comfortable having on our farm if I can help it. And that preservative is called thimerosal. You can do a little bit of research on thimerosal and figure out what it's all about. It is a mercury-derived preservative that in the human body breaks down into 2 different compounds. One of them is ethyl mercury. And there are withdrawal times for these shots. I can't remember what they are. It's on the bottle. And those withdrawal times are there because the meat or the milk wouldn't be safe to consume while that thimerosal or that ingredient, that other ingredient in the vaccine is still kind of coursing through the goat's body. And so you wait until they are at a lower level or a non-detectable level before you consume either the meat or the milk from that animal. I think a lot of people kind of just see that withdrawal time and they think, okay, at that point whatever was in it is gone. Well, at that point, whatever it is has been excreted out of the goat's body, and it still doesn't break down in the environment. We use our goat manure in our barn clean out in our garden, and really the last thing I want is to routinely give something like that and kind of constantly have things like ethyl mercury come out of my goats and then go into my garden, be uptaken by the plants, and then consumed by my family. That's just not something that I'm comfortable with. Now, does that mean that I am assuming a risk as far as maybe will I lose a couple goats to these clostridial blooms, and possibly could I lose a goat to tetanus? Yes, that is a risk, and that is a risk that I'm willing to assume. This has to be something that each producer assesses for themselves and their own herd. Now, they do make antitoxins, which I do have on hand, so that if you notice that your goat has come down with a clostridial bloom or a tetanus bloom, you can give this antitoxin. Just know that the antitoxin also has that same preservative, and so if you plan on keeping back manure, what I would probably do, I haven't had any of these issues in the 5 years that we've been keeping goats, but my plan is if I felt like I had to treat a goat for any of these things, I would separate them from the herd and put them in a place where I'm not going to be collecting the manure in order to put it in my garden. That kind of thing just isn't realistic or possible as far as whole herd vaccination, so we just choose not to do it. Okay. So you saw me pulling down Tori's eyelid and looking in there. I'm just looking for her anemia score. So there's a score called the FAMACHA score that was originally put in place to assess how much impact the barber poleworm could be having on the goat's system. Now, I'm not necessarily looking at this only concerned about the barber poleworm. There are a few different worms that can cause anemia in goats. Actually, some worms will take the goat's proteins instead of their blood. So if you have a goat that does have a really great dark red eyelid, but they're still really not keeping condition well, it doesn't mean that they don't have worms. If their FAMACHA looks good, it just means that they probably don't have the type of worm that draws the blood. It could still be drawing away from their proteins. Now, Tori has had better looking FAMACHAs than this. This is kind of like a mid-road where I'm not going to treat her, but I'm going to write this down because she could be one that would need a deworming around kidding. Kidding is stressful on the doe, it's stressful on their bodies, and stressful events can cause a worm bloom. So I know that because I have seen a redder FAMACHA on her and she's gone down a tiny bit, that she could be at risk when she kids. It won't be anything detrimental, just if I know that if she does start to scour or something, then I probably need to treat her for worms at that time. But we do not deworm on a schedule for anyone here. We just keep a close eye on everybody. Tori will be a first freshener, and she was bred to feral. Tori comes from the same farm as feral, so this pairing is like a complete outcross from our current genetics. I think she's only got one on board. And I'm just trying to feel for the baby. I've got my hand in front of her udder, but more towards her right side. If you feel movement on that side, it's likely to be babies, especially at this stage. Can you see her little udder coming in? I haven't done any kind of milk stand training for my first fresheners that are due this spring, so it's gonna be a little bit of a rodeo, but she's got her little baby udder coming on. It feels good. Can I feel your baby? It's quite tight in there. She's due very soon though. There we go. Strong baby in there, at least one. I think she's only gonna have one. Come here, we turn around and go this way. Don't run away. Here's Tizzy. Tizzy is out of my Christine line. So Christine is her grandma. Elpis is her mama. She also has really nice feet, like her mama. Tizzy here was also bred to feral as part of Breeding Palooza, due sometime in the first week of February, with her first set of babies who are moving great. Oh, I love this. I can't believe it's taking me this long to feel these babies. I think she's got two. Let's see, can I touch? Oh, good girl, Tizzy. Good girl. She looks like she's gonna have her grandma's udder. Wow, that was a strong movement. So I'm already really happy with what I see of Tizzy's udder. It's a very high udder with a nice arch to it. This comes totally from Elpis's side. Beautiful, beautiful udder. Oops, I'm sorry. We gotta turn around. Good girl. There you go. Fury's udder might be a little bit harder to see. She is going to be a first freshener. I feel that she's got a couple really nice, I don't know what they call them, but there's veins that go down the middle of their body here on the bottom towards the udder. There's a name for it. She's got very pronounced vein coming towards her udder, which comes from her grand dam. Christine has that. Oh, there's baby. This one's actually kind of further up. Yep. I think Fury has two on board. Let's see, will she let me touch? Yes. These guys are doing good, considering I have not handled them in this way. She also has a pretty high arch back here. She's gonna have milk higher up than we're used to seeing out of Havoc daughters, to be sure. And I also feel a good amount of milk on the front here, her fore udder. These minis, they're impressing me right now. She's doing good. Good girl, Fury. We will end on a good note. You are such a pretty girl. She's unimpressed. Nope. Here we go. Good girl. Right here. Had to take my sweater off. It's warm enough today where wrestling with goats warms you right up. I can feel them in there. Yep, and I've got some kicks. Oh, I cannot wait to see how these babies look. I think she's got two. She's gonna let me touch. Ooh, we're getting spoiled. Whoop, okay, we won't push our luck. But also a nice high udder, very high. I think this is higher than Fury's. Very, like the milk is way up here. That's so good. Feels well attached. It's gonna be hard to tell until the milk fully comes in. So nice. Thank you, Shindy. Shindy also has these little dingles hanging down from her neck. These are called waddles. I really like them. Some people don't like them, and I'm hoping we get some more. They have to carry the waddle gene in order to pass the waddle gene, I'm pretty sure. Come here. Don't run away. I don't have a fence up right now. She could head straight to the front porch if she wanted. Go on. Go on. Go on. Good girl. Pretty Miss Elara here is also a first freshener. She's also not quite 1 year old yet. Now, the other goats so far that we've brought up, they are 2-year first fresheners. I can't remember the technical term for them, but they'll be freshening or having their babies for the first time as they turn 2 years old. When to breed your goats is really a personal decision. I decided that I would breed Elara in her first year because she grew so big. Her sister Breezy did the same thing, was definitely big enough to have babies her first year, and she did. She had twin bucklings for us last year. Little Elara here grew just as well. They have the same parents, and so she's gonna get on her first year. I think Elara has at least 2 in here. She's also bred to Feral. Gonna use Feral a lot. I don't have any of his daughters yet, and I really want them. See, this has me wondering more if Shindy is gonna have triplets, because bumping up on her, I feel the babies, but she just doesn't feel as heavy with them as Shindy did. There's one right here. There you go. There's a kick. Elara was handled a lot by my daughter when she was a baby, because Addie wants to show goats eventually. So Elara is really used to having her udder handled and everything, I can distinctly feel the difference between her udder, which is not as good as some of the other udders that we've had up here. You can probably see the milk kind of stops right here instead of going way up high. She doesn't have a lot of rear udder height, and I don't really feel any kind of, maybe there's a little attachment over here. She is a full sibling of our other goat Breezy, who we have brought into milk, who has a really low kind of pendulous udder. I imagine Elara's is gonna look the same, so I will likely sell at least Breezy this coming year. We'll probably hang on to Elara because she's my daughter's goat, but we'll absolutely be breeding her for improvement in this department, which pairing her with Feral is an improvement. Really, any of my bucks that I have kept back, they will be an improvement on this. You're beautiful, though. I'm not saying that you're not a good goat, because you are. I'm gonna see if Elara will let you see her FAMACHA score. And here, Elara's never had a dewormer. Look at how beautiful. See, we care about that more than we care about udders, to be honest. If we can have good parasite resistance with good udders, though, obviously that would be better. You know how to do this. Good girl. This here's Breezy, Elara's sister. She actually kidded last year for us. She's the one with the pendulous udder that we just showed. So I do have plans to sell her, like I talked about, because even though her udder isn't necessarily something that I want to perpetuate here, she's still a good milk goat, and she'll provide a lot of good milk for someone. Ideally, I'd really like to keep a daughter out of her so that we can see the improvements that Feral has on this line. If she doesn't have a daughter, Elara maybe will, and so I've got my fingers crossed. But because of Breezy's udder and how I don't really want to pass these genetics along, any bucklings that are born are going to be freezer bucklings. She's used to being milked, but she still doesn't want me to touch it. Pregnancy hormones, am I right? She had twins for us this last year. I think she just has a single this year. I feel it though. I did have questions on whether or not she was bred a couple of months ago because she was acting quite bucky. She sort of seemed like she might have been in heat, but it was just those hormones raging. One of my other goats who I didn't breed this fall was probably in heat at that time, but yeah. There's one in here. Breezy actually has longer hair. This is her granddam. I think her granddam's name is Mallow. Has really long hair. Some LaManchas can. It's quite pretty. All right. Now I need standard LaManchas. Nope. Clover, don't run away. Thank God. I would not put it past this hooligan to take the opportunity to run. Thankfully, our entire property is fenced in, so she couldn't go too far. But this is Clover. Clover is a very special goat. She's a standard La Mancha. She's gonna be turning 3 this year, having her second freshen. Last year she came to us bred, so she had standard La Manchas. This year she's gonna be having mini La Manchas out of our Nigerian dwarf buck Mooch. Clover is actually one of the 2 goats that I have that are not due in the same week. She is due on March 1st, along with Talia, one of my other La Manchas. Talia is also bred to Mooch. Clover also has very pretty feet. Clover retired from the show ring early. She did place really well in the show that she went to. She placed 3rd in her class, and I really think that if she had continued her show career, she would have done pretty well because she has a very, very nice high udder. Because of that, I would love to keep anything out of her, but especially a buckling. There's actually really nothing to see back here right now, even though she's due in about 6 weeks. Generally a good sign that they have a lot of like productive tissue instead of just like fatty udder tissue. She almost looks like she's never freshened before. See, it's like there's nothing there. She definitely has been in milk before. Now remember, Clover's a standard La Mancha, bred to a Nigerian dwarf, and so size might be deceiving with quantity of kids. Oof, she's pretty dense in there, and she still has 6 weeks to go. Yeah, there's at least one. At least one, I'm guessing 2 on her. You know what this is about. Careful. So if you are not aware, Elpis is my goat that had meningeal worm her first year. So her back end is always weak. This is probably a little bit slippery, but Elpis is also never going to be quite right after that worm. It is worth mentioning with the little stumble that she had just there that around this time of pregnancy, it's important to look out for signs of pregnancy toxemia and kind of weakness or unsteadiness on their back feet, unwillingness to stand up. That kind of thing can be a sign that pregnancy toxemia has started. But because of her history, I'm not worried about that. That was pretty normal for her. Okay. Maybe she's got a single this year. I feel it. But she's bred to feral. So Elpis is a standard La Mancha. Feral is a mini La Mancha, but feral is 70% La Mancha. So combining the two, this baby is 90% La Mancha, so it's going to be bigger. She's due February 8th. She's been milked before. She's the one that has a nice, high, wide udder. She is the mom of Tizzy, Shindy, and Fury. She squats really well. Look at her. It's not time to milk quite yet. I actually don't like milking her udder. She's getting some milk in her udder right now because she's not that far from kidding, but she's got an udder that is just hard to empty. I don't know if it's her or if it's her udder, but you have to work very hard to get the milk out. She just doesn't let it down for whatever reason. For me, but with my hands or with a milk machine. So I do not plan on milking her simply because I can't stand milking her. And I also don't plan on keeping bucks out of her because I don't really want to perpetuate something that's difficult to milk. That's not what I'm after. Her udder might be pretty, but it's not super great with its functionality. So we'd rather keep back the bucklings from the ones that have good udders that are easy to milk rather than just a pretty udder. There we go. Good, strong baby. I think she's got one. I think she's going to have a single this year. She might surprise me with two. When she had her triplets, I was very surprised. But at that point, she was bred to a Nigerian dwarf. Being bred to feral, I don't really know. Elpis, oof, it's okay. Hey. She knows the drill, so she's ready to turn around and leave. But Elpis also has waddles. No, don't. You know the rules. Go on. Talia is on her third freshen. This is her third time being bred to a Nigerian dwarf, but first time not being bred to our older buck, Havoc. This is her first time being bred to Mooch, and I'm excited about it. I've seen, there's her baby, feeling it kicking. I've seen what her and Havoc can produce together, and it's not that great. So moving her on to a better quality buck. Hopefully it'll get us some better quality babies. I plan to keep something back from her just to see what Mooch does with this line as a replacement for Breezy. Yeah, there's one baby in here at least. She's my other goat that is due March 1st instead of in February. Elsa! It's like they forget their names when they're not in the milking rotation. You! Come on, Elsa! Look at this goat, you guys! She is so wide. It's crazy. Now, Elsa is the biggest goat that I have, but she is bred to a Nigerian dwarf. She's actually our only La Mancha or goat at all that is due with nefarious babies this spring. So blue cactus nefarious. I'm really excited to bring some blue cactus genetics into my mini La Mancha herd. I'm gonna keep back anything that comes out of Elsa, buck or doe. It looks to me like she's gonna give us some options. Elsa is my highest capacity doe as far as volume of milk goes, but she doesn't have a lot of milk proteins. I did a hair test on her to figure out what her casein output was, and it's not that great. But I did do a casein test on all of my bucks, and I don't think I've updated you guys here yet. I got the results back from Feral. I did tell you about him. He has 2 genes that are for high casein output, and our other bucks, I just got their results back as well. Both Mooch and Nefarious also carry 2 high casein genes. And that's super exciting because it means that no matter what our does have, the bucks are always going to be an improvement as far as casein output goes, and I just felt a kick. I'm going for 3 on her. Now, Elsa was given to me because she had a single one time And then twins her second freshing, so this is gonna be her third freshen. She had only been bred standard previously, so she had some standard sized babies. They were anywhere between 9 and 12 pounds each and were hard for her to deliver. So she was given to me under the stipulation that she would only be bred back to a Nigerian, and she's got a lot of baby in here. There is a chance that on her side of the genetic line they could be bigger, but they're also half Nigerian, so I think there are several in here. Three is my guess. 4 would be insane, not out of the realm of possibility. Elsa is due February 8th. See if you can turn around in the milk stand with all that balance. I just love you. Hi, we're gonna have a good kitty, aren't we? Come. Oh, you're so huge. Watch out, Margie. Just check her out. I feel like for Elsa, the camera is almost slimming for her. If you see her in person, it's insane how big she is. Anyway, those are all of the goats that I have due this spring. Everybody else around here with ears, they are part of my fall kidding rotation, so they will be bred in May to kid this October. Breezy's wondering if I brought her a treat. I did not. And just so everyone is aware, in case you are not aware, we do live stream all of our births that I can attend for our members. And so if you'd like to be part of that, it's a really fun time. Go ahead and click the join button down below. I'll also put a link in the description box that's easy to find and in the pinned comment. Of course, I also bring my camera down to the births, and so there's always a YouTube video that is available to the public when I can attend a birth. I have been to most of them. I have missed them in the past. In any case, whether we are ready or not, which we are ready, this baby's gonna be hitting the ground very soon.